What's up everybody, and welcome back to the channel, or to the channel if it's your first time. And yesterday I released a video titled The Most Generous Farm in Outriders right now. And basically I detailed the Hauras farm, which is in the dunes. I did some calculations in comparison of 1 run versus 200 runs, and on average the amount of materials and so on that you get from that run. However, in my comments for that video, someone suggested that they in actual fact do Typhon, because Typhon has a really good legendary drop chance and is very comparable in terms of farming. So I figured, let me give it a try and let me use the Hauras farm as a benchmark to compare against that, so that we can basically see which one of the two is better, and if in actual fact you do get a better legendary drop chance with Typhon. So in any case, without further ado, let's jump right in. Now, first of all, Typhon is located in Canyon of the Grand Obelisk, and the setup for this is a little bit different to the Hauras one, and that is that you obviously teleport, you warp in, you go pick up the quest, you go into the area. You don't have multiple areas that you have to pass through. You basically enter the area, and then essentially you have 9 mobs that spawn. These are, a mixture of the calloused maulers and perforos, and you have to kill all 9 of them, and then Typhon will basically come out of his cubbyhole and you can shoot him as well. Now, one thing to mention here, you can't kite those 9 or anything like that. You have to actually kill those 9 mobs to get Typhon to show up. But as soon as you kill Typhon, you can even blow him up inside his cubbyhole. Then he, then after that, about 22 to 25 calloused maulers, perforo, venomous perforo spawn during that fight, and those are the mobs that basically can kill you. And then you just rinse repeat. It's a very fast one, very comparable in terms of speed to what we saw with Hauras. So where Hauras was about 27 seconds on average to basically complete one cycle of this, Typhon is more like 28, 29, where essentially 11 to 13 seconds of that is you killing those 9 mobs and then Typhon, and then the rest is basically them, the remainder of the mobs killing you. Now, there is some discrepancy here with time, and in some cases it takes up to 32, 33 seconds, and that's due to the way that those 9 mobs can spawn. What you ideally want them to do is spawn right in front of you, or basically in front of you and slightly to the right, because then you can just kill them all in the line. But if they spawn here with another 2 coming on the left and everything like that, that just adds on 1 or 2 or 3 seconds, and basically it's quite irritating. So then as you kill Typhon and then you rinse repeat, I was able to rack up 200 runs with this as well, so that we can compare apples to apples, and we can basically see on your screen right now, you can see that essentially in one run you're looking at an average of 14 to 15 titanium, 2 epics and 2 rares. Now this is much more consistent in terms of the drops that you get than what we were seeing with Hauras, because Hauras was essentially 2 elites dropping items, whereas this is essentially just 1 elite being Typhon. And so it's a much more generic way of counting, and that you are generally getting 9.9 times out of 10 you're getting 2 rares, 2 epics, and then sometimes you'll get 1 additional epic or 1 additional rare. Now, if we then extrapolate that and we take the entirety of the 200 runs, that was able to net me 2,900 titanium. I was able to get 422 epics and 426 rares, and I was able to get 2 legendary, so 1 more than the Hauras run. Now, just on this side note here, if your objective is to farm mods, if that's the primary objective, so you want to get as many epics as possible with the 2 mods on each, so that you can unlock your tier 1 and tier 2 mods the quickest, then this is very, very comparable in the ability to farm those mods quickly to the Hauras run. So whether you do Hauras or this, I think you'll have no problem within a 200 run session being able to essentially finish all your tier 1 and tier 2 mods. So if that's your objective, then you could do either one of these 2. The fact that I was able to get 1 extra legendary here is something that I'll discuss near the end of this, but the other point here being that just from a pure material perspective, it's then clear to see that Hauras is superior, because in terms of running time, very close to one another. 90 minutes for your 200 runs on Hauras, about 93 to 94 minutes for your 200 runs on Typhon. So then basically you can just look at the discrepancy of the leather and the iron, where you can see that you got 140k leather and 35k iron with Hauras with the same amount of runs, whereas you only get 85k and 12k iron on Typhon. Now, just another side note here is that, of course, the titanium values, the iron values, and the leather values are not absolute, because these depend on the mix of items that you're getting. So if a lot of weapons are falling, then of course your iron values are going to be, slightly different to mine. Likewise with leather, and likewise with titanium. So you won't be able to replicate this 100%, but this is a very good ballpark of basically, what you can expect it to be. Now, the other thing that I neglected to mention on yesterday's video, but that I did include in the notes, is that of course also while you're doing this, you're unlocking a whole bunch of shards as well. So the shards being the items that you use to increase things like close range damage, long range damage, and basically those stats on weapons and on armor. So obviously here it goes without saying, since there are more items dropping on the Hauras side, the Hauras run gives you more shards. Makes sense. So that's all in all then just a comparison between the two. In my opinion, I believe that the Hauras run is still superior for two reasons. One, obviously you're getting far more materials. And even though we did get the extra legendary on the Typhon side, that's not enough, for me to lose essentially 30 to 40% of the materials that I would have gotten if I just did Hauras. And the second thing also being that I think that even though again, the Hauras run seems to be more straightforward, because it's literally just going around the corner, killing those two mobs and resetting. Where Typhon does require a little bit, and I mean it's not a big deal, but a little bit of extra effort, because you have to kill those 9 mobs at the beginning, which might mean that you have to go to the left, kill 2 mobs coming out of the cave there, and then kill them. Sometimes you're lucky and they all spawn in front of you and you can just kill them, and then you kill Typhon. So it just seems that the setup and the execution of Hauras run is a little bit, easier. Less attention that you need to spend to it. In other words, that's the whole point of these runs, is that they essentially, like, I don't want to call them AFK runs, but that's it. Now, 2 other things that I do want to mention before we end off here today. Sorry, let me just get my notes here. Is that firstly, and this is tough for me to test or difficult for me to prove, but what was funny for me is that with Typhon, I was only getting armor drops. And so I wonder if there's any kind of way how certain mobs or certain bosses have a loot pool that they drop from, and that, that's basically a way that you can target farm certain things. This is really difficult to prove, so this is more just a conspiracy theory for me at this moment in time. The second thing is, those of you that might have noticed with the footage playing in the background, you'll notice that out of the 2 legendaries that I got in the 200 runs with Typhon, one of them actually dropped from a Calloused Mauler. Now, the assumption is that the majority of your loot, and especially the legendaries, are going to be coming from the elite mobs that you kill in aka Typhon. So while I was busy with the 200 runs, this got me thinking that, maybe there's some use in actually killing the 9 mobs, killing Typhon, and then the 20 plus mobs that spawn after Typhon, let's say killing 75% of them and leaving 4 to 5 of them left to basically kill me. But I didn't want to do that as part of the 200, because I didn't want to poison those numbers and basically, discard the 200 versus 200 comparison we were trying to do. So on top of the 200, I did another 50. And with this 50, I basically killed the 9, killed Typhon, and then, as I said, I, basically kill another 75 to 70% of the other mobs that spawn. Essentially trying to leave 4, 5, or 6 mobs left that can, end up killing me, and then reset. Now, this increases the average time that you take every run from, 27 to 28 seconds all the way up to 40 to 42 seconds. So quite a bit of additional time there. And I did manage to get a legendary to drop in those 50, but it fell from Typhon. So in my mind, it doesn't really make a difference. I think that's anecdotal as best, and it's still the best way to run Typhon. If you choose to run Typhon, is just to kill the 9 mobs, kill him, and then reset and repeat. So that's it for today's video. I hope that you found this helpful. I hope that it gives you a good idea of which one you should do. I think in the end, it really comes down to preference, to be honest. Definitely more material is coming from Hauras. You can do both if you get tired of one or the other. I think they're both very good farms. Now, I have 2 to 3 more videos on this topic coming out in the next 2 to 3 days. I'm working on that right now, basically putting it together with some interesting findings that I found with more, legendary comparisons and, coming from certain things. So please go ahead, comment and like down below. Let me know of any other areas that you think are good for farming that you'd like me to check out. I can do a similar analysis to that. If you really enjoy content like this, consider subscribing, especially if you want to see those other videos that are coming down the line. I think you might be quite interested to find or to see what I find when it comes to farming legendaries in the open world versus legendaries, for instance, in expeditions. In any case, that's it for me today. Thanks very much for the support, especially on the previous video. Thanks for sticking around, especially if you watched this far, and have a great morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. And until next time, fucking cheers.